The Pitt is a medical drama from HBO that's taken TV by storm. Season 2 ended back in April, but the internet has refused to move on, and for good reason. The show doesn't just have a fantastic cast, it's got fantastic experimental writing. In The Pitt, one season is one day, and each episode is just 1 hour in the ER. You get more time with the characters, but how are these characters supposed to grow in just one day? How do the writers pull off character development? The answer might surprise you.
Story Step.
It's like book club,
But it's more than books,
and it's not quite a club.
Welcome back to Story Stack. I'm Ansley.
I'm Gabriel.
And I'm Lily.
And today's episode is about The Pitt, but I have to admit, I planned this episode, and it really was just an excuse to talk about Sean Hennessy. And I forced Lily and Gabriel to watch season 1 of The Pitt. And before I get into my thoughts, I would love to know just your initial feelings.
This is one of the best TV shows I've watched in a while, which is becoming par for the course for Story Stack because Ansley also made us watch Dark, which was also awesome. So
I have fantastic recs.
That's true.
There's such a reason why this show is so popular and why, from the first season, it just had people so engaged. I definitely am glad that I got to just binge the 2 seasons and was not part of the group that was waiting week after week for the next episode to drop. The actual fear, intention that would have built in me is crazy. After every single episode, where they choose to end things and the cliffhangers that they place. I mean, I'm so happy that the next episode was just there for me and I didn't have to be oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Next week, I have to wait a week. So very grateful for that. There's just, and it's so clever and weird and there are a million medical dramas out there, but this one is so different.
That's what really surprised me when I was watching it. I was thinking about how many medical dramas currently have existed. It's a tried and true TV genre. And then I was sitting there watching The Pitt, and I was like, oh, this is just... what if we finally decided to make one of these good? It's been decades and decades of medical drama, and then it's finally oh, we can just do better.
I almost think that, though, the pitfall of other medical dramas is that it is hard, I think, to make a show in a hospital and then make it interesting in a hospital sense. And so they have to throw out a bunch of other subplots with the characters having affairs and patient malpractice and all this sort of other extra stuff that is so wildly non-medical that you just would never it's hard to make a show actually about the medicine. And, well, I'm not a doctor, and neither of us are doctors, and I cannot say how accurate this show is medically. It does not romanticize medicine at all in the way that other medical shows do. I did not watch The Pitt and then think, wow, I want to go to nursing school so bad, or I want to be an emergency room doctor so bad. No, I left that thinking that would stress me out. That sounds like anxiety every single day. This is nothing like what I would want to be a part of at all. Whereas I remember watching Grey's Anatomy when I was in, 8th grade? I don't know, being 14 years old, thinking, wow, I want to be a surgeon. That's so sexy.
I want to kiss people in the hospital.
Exactly.
Let me kiss people in the hospital.
Pick me, choose me, love me.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a huge, huge part of why The Pitt is so successful and why it's gotten so popular. Because I'm not dogging, and I hope neither of you are dogging on past medical dramas. But when I think of some of the more popular ones in recent years, it's things like Chicago Med, The Good Doctor, obviously Grey's Anatomy, and all of these shows do have more of a focus on the character drama than on the medical drama that's going on, and The Pitt doesn't. There's constantly a new patient, and I think that's part of the benefit of it being in the ER. And fun side note, in case you guys didn't know, because I didn't put this in my notes, back in the 90s to 2009, there's a show called ER. Mm-hmm. Noah Wiley, who plays Dr. Robbie, was also in that show as Dr. Carter. Mm-hmm. The Pitt, there's some rumors, I haven't seen it like officially confirmed everywhere, so I don't want to say like this is fact. But The Pitt was originally meant to be like a sequel to that show, and they couldn't get the licensing for it. But Robbie is meant to sort of be a grown version of his character on the Pitt or on ER. So I think that's a cool bit. But back to the main point here. There's always a new patient. There's always something else happening. And so it's just so hard to stop focusing on the patients and on the medical side of things. But I think the magic of the show is that it walks that line so well so that even in a moment that is about a patient, you're still getting a sense of character tensions. And I think one of the really great moments that sort of is an example of that is in season 2 with the woman whose son falls asleep in the car while she's gardening. He almost dies from heat exhaustion. There's a threat that he's never going to fully recover to the kid that he was. And the mom is so distraught about it that she ends up wandering out to traffic. Once they get her back in the room, Dr. Al-Hashimi is talking to her, and the camera is focused on Robbie. And in season 2, a huge focus is his mental health. And Al-Hashimi is asking the mom, have you ever thought about hurting yourself? And when she asks that line, it's like the camera is asking Robbie, because you see his face go blank. And so that whole scene is about that patient, but even through it, you're still getting a sense of the character tensions. And I think it's just such a cool way to approach that. I think something else that this show, going off of that, and really what I want to talk about, is how the writers approach character development. This is not the first show to do this sort of format of one season being one day. 24 has done it. Adolescence did it. It is one of the first medical shows to have that structure for a whole season. Grey's Anatomy had at least one episode, maybe more than one, where it was sort of in real time, but it did not do it frequently. Mm-hmm. And so this is one of the first medical shows that do it. I think it is a crazy new level for the immersiveness of it. And when I started the show, that was what I was most curious about, was how they were going to do it in that short of a time frame and still give us character development, because how can one person grow in one day? You know what I mean? And they just knocked it out of the park. And I think the way that it works is that there's almost a sense of like reverse character development, in that it's not that the characters grow throughout the day necessarily, but it's that the more that you learn about them, the more it changes your perception of them. And I think that is ultimately why the show is so successful, is because you're spending so much time with these characters, but you're interacting with them the way that you would a person in your real life. Like, you meet somebody, you learn more about their past, and it changes how you view them. And so it makes these characters that normally would just feel like TV characters feel like real people.
It's really, about the character development, the way that you like and dislike characters is so like strange to me, because I don't think there is a character that I can truly fully hate on this show. I think I really understand, okay, like main characters, like main like doctor, nurse cast. I think that I understand like most of these human beings, and they're very, I think, well fleshed out, even if they're not, even like Nurse Dana, who's not necessarily a main, I mean, she's in every episode, but she's the
backbone of that ER.
She is the backbone of the ER, but she is not present with every patient. She's not one of the doctors. She is the like head nurse, so she is like running everything, and we see her like giving orders. But even getting to see her sort of complexity, like she is not just this hard ass nurse that is yelling, "Oh, trauma one's open. Oh, get them out of here," or she is like also going through such deep, complex like feelings with exhaustion at being a nurse, even though she has done it for decades. And a lot of, in the first season and second season, we really see her grapple with how the medical community has changed since she started, and not in a way of like she is outdated and like she's too old-fashioned, because she's not. She has grown, and she has evolved with the way that medicine has evolved, but she is just exhausted by it and seeing more like aggression towards nurses and the sort of disrespect that they get. I do love that this show did make one of their subplots like this sort of violence against nurses specifically. I love that they mentioned like violence against a healthcare worker is a felony, because so many people, I think, especially in the ER where you're seeing people on their literal worst days, are feeling like, I mean, you just are with so many people that are feeling violent and aggressive, and a nurse is an easy target for that aggression, because you see them as they're keeping you from your health. Like they're the ones you feel like we're preventing you from getting the drugs that you want, from getting the room that you want. Like, hey, I'm waiting here, and the nurse has to be the one that's like, no, like we have to, keep you sitting there for a little longer. Oh, sir, you need to stay down. The doctors are just moving around. The nurses are the ones that are constantly having to make sure that everything is exactly as it should be. Don't want to be a nurse. Don't want to be a doctor either. Like that. There was this line where I forget which doctor said it, where it's like, I love being able to help people on their worst days. I'm forgetting. I think it's Dr. Whitaker that says that, or he's in conversation.
I think that's season 2 when he's talking to Ogilvy.
Yes. He says it to Ogilvy where it's like, I like helping people on their worst days, and could never be me. Like, that sounds like, well, it sounds like such a setup for burnout, as far as like, yeah, like it feels good to help people in need. Absolutely it does. For 12 hours for your career it takes like such a special person with such a gift and like drive to be able to do that. So like more power to the people that really are just selflessly wanting to help people when they are probably at their rudest, most aggressive, most sad. It's, oh my gosh, such a environment for burnout.
Well, I mean, Dr. Langdon says it at a point. We do this because we have ADHD and we'd be bored otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I like, that's a joke that in that scene that he says that, but I do think there's a certain reality to how it portrays the characters, is that deep down, yes, they have these lofty ambitions of helping people on their worst days. However, I think the other level to it is that they're all adrenaline junkies. Like, they couldn't be anywhere else. They have to be in the pit responding to emergencies.
I would love to hear from someone that watched this show that was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's the environment that I need to be in every day, because it really has to be a specific person.
One of the things that I also really appreciate about the structure of this show and like how fast-paced it is that through the patients and the doctors, you get like so many different perspectives and, types of representation, and none of it ever feels gratuitous or like just for the sake of something. And that's, things that come top of mind for me are like the patient who was diabetic but couldn't afford his treatments and he left and then came back worse, but not just treating that as like a plot point, but actually having a conversation about how unfairly priced the medical system is and how hard it is to get access to basic care. We get in season 2, Mel's sister having her own autonomy as an autistic woman and having a romantic relationship and something that she's choosing to have. I think there's so many more examples, but just it's so fast paced. You get so much representation. And I think part of why that's possible is the structure, how fast paced it is. But there's also such a sense of like, it is what it is. Like there's such a clinical approach to some things, which makes sense with it being a medical drama. But I think we just haven't seen that from medical dramas in the past. And so they set you up real well for it in season 1 with the first patient being like skinned from the falling on the train tracks. And like they show you that. This show literally shows you a woman giving birth, like a close up of her vagina giving birth. And I remember being like, oh, okay. Like it caught me off guard for a second, but I was like, but this is so on par with everything else they've shown us. And it doesn't feel like it's a shock value thing. It feels like, no, this show is putting you in the ER and this is what you would see.
No, because about the woman giving birth scene, it was not like, oh, okay. Like I just kind of like brushed by it. No, I remember looking at my cat who was sitting next to me and going, Millie, are we watching the same thing right now? I remember that. And also, I remember that I had just finished, like, eating. I forget what I was eating at the time. Probably dinner. It was night, okay? And just finished eating dinner. And then we're watching this person give birth. And I'm like, wow, I could not have finished dinner any later because this is I definitely this is not a show that you necessarily want to be eating anything while you're watching. And Gabriel had sent like a text to the group chat going, y'all did not warn me. You did not tell me not to eat while watching this show because
failure of my co-host.
Sorry on that one.
It really is like you don't know what you're going to see. And when they do have something to see, you're going to see it in its like almost fullness. I mean, in the second season, you see like a needle like stuck into like a man's, genitals because they're draining blood after taking like too much ED medication. And it like, I don't even have those parts to like feel this sort of pain. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, oh, poor, like I think so much, like empathy with these characters. Like I'm feeling their pain. Like I have to look away. Like that woman giving birth was in so much like pain and suffering, and just seeing the woman's body like split open like that. Like all I'm saying is like women, more power to ya for that, because that like, I mean, birth is a miracle. Birth is a miracle in all its like bloody goriness. It's a miracle.
So I only saw season 1, but my favorite moment of season 1, hands down, is the reveal of Dr. McKay's ankle monitor. Now, this is just like grade A character building. Not just the fact that Dr. McKay is this seemingly well-adjusted individual, and then you get this twist on that makes your mind spiral of who they actually are, but the moment, or the way that moment is set up is a masterclass as far as writing. Because the way that moment is set up is you have Dr. McKay, who is training Dr. Giovanni. Giovanni, right? Giovanni, yeah. What they're doing is they're taking triage. They're pulling people from the waiting room to assess them. So very important part of the ER, but a low impact part of the ER. And you as the watcher are watching that moment unfold. And maybe for the first time since you've sat down and started watching The Pitt, you start to get bored. Like, it's fun to have these characters interact with each other. They're interesting. But you as the viewer are like, oh, well, this is finally a settle down moment. And you might even have this opportunity to be like, okay, the characters are just hanging out. What if I checked my phone? And then the moment where the boredom is just enough to tip you over the scale, that's when the ankle monitor goes off. And just the way that this show is able to capture attention like that and to control your attention like that, all for the purpose of in-depth and complex character building, the chef's kiss. Wow.
I think there's another fantastic moment of that in season 2 where it's not just that like you're building the characters, you're getting an idea of who they are, and it's a well-placed moment, but it's also that like the show is now calling you out on making false assumptions about things you don't know. There's a scene where I know that you didn't watch season 2. So in season 2, ice is a plot point for a moment.
I've heard of this.
Just to cut to like the moment that I'm talking about, there's a nurse, Jessie, gets involved because an ICE agent is being rough with a woman that he's detained, and Jessie ends up being detained and taken out of the hospital. Later on in that episode, or maybe the next episode, honestly, they all kind of blurred together because I binged season 1 and season 2 in like 2 days. But later on, Robbie finds Giovanni in a room. This is after it's been revealed that Giovanni is a huge TikTok star by Dr. J is her handle. And she's sharing like health tips to people. So you see her on her phone. Robbie and you as the viewer kind of assume that she's just dicking around on TikTok because that's how this has kind of been presented. And then later on, you find out, no, she's actually coordinating with people and with, groups that are tracking detainees, trying to figure out where Jessie is and keeping everybody informed. And so then you as the viewer are like, oh shit, well now I feel kind of bad for thinking that she was just dicking around. And then Robbie ends up having to apologize to her later. So that is another really cool moment of like, learning what characters are doing in a backward sense, or like finding out what they're doing later on, and then it changes your perception.
I think I never questioned Dr. J. Okay, I didn't know she was coordinating like at the time, but I knew when she was on her phone, I knew she was talking about ICE being like they're here, that the hospital, whatever. Like I knew that she was doing something for the greater good. I just didn't know that it was trying to help figure out where Nurse Jessie might be. I think another great example of character development is with like Dr. Santos in this like show. I mean, you don't like her, at least in the beginning. I don't think you're supposed to like her. She is really kind of annoying, pretentious, know-it-all. Like she's not the character that you are drawn to thinking, wow, what a pleasant person to be around and have on my screen. And while she doesn't get softer throughout the show, you kind of learn things through her interactions with other patients that tells you maybe about her past, how she's been viewed, how she's been treated, why she kind of is the way she is, why certain things cause certain reactions in her, to the point where you completely, understand and empathize with her when she is angry at the potential for a dad abusing his daughter, and why she is upset when she sees Langdon stealing drugs and then is not properly reprimanded for it. Like you understand why she is acting and reacting the way that she is, even though she starts out being this just like kind of bitch and she's called out for it, validly so. That was the character for me that I feel like changed my view of her, changed the most from beginning of season 1 to like end of season 2. I thought she was going to kind of like be a fizzle out character like from the beginning. I was like, she's too unlikable to be a recurring character. Like she's not going to come back in season 2. It's like from the beginning of season 1, I thought like this is going to be a season 1 character that we have and we're frustrated with. She's not going to make it. But by the end of season 1, you're like, oh my gosh, like I kind of need more of her. And she does play like this sort of important role. And seeing her sort of friendship with Whitaker is really interesting to me. And you kind of get this sort of like, maybe she is a team player and cares about others. She just has a lot of guards because she makes all these jokes with the characters around her and using kind of humor as a coping mechanism. And she jokes about using humor as a coping mechanism, but it's obviously like rooted in reality. And you kind of are like, maybe she is just a bitch and hates all these people. But then she sees that Whitaker's been living in the hospital and she's like, I have a spare room. Come live with me. And he's like, I can't like afford that. She's like, don't worry about that. Like, come live with me. I have a spare room. And you kind of realize that she does crave this sort of camaraderie with her, fellow doctors and in life in general. She does want that sort of connection. And I don't know. That was, for me, a great like character development moment.
I think it's worth pointing out that scene with Whitaker where she offers to have him stay in her spare room is practically like the last scene of season 1. And it's a testament to how complex and slow burn the character development is, of like you just getting the notion that Dr. Santos might be lonelier and craving connection and using her aggression as like a mechanism to put herself out there in the world. You don't really get the full payoff of that until like the end of season 1. You have to go through all of the trials and tribulations with her to even get that snippet. And this show doesn't like, I was about to say the show doesn't hold back, but it in fact does hold back. It holds back tremendously. And that's the thing that I appreciate most about it. It really wants you, the viewer, to work for it. It's not going to give you a full payoff to any of these character arcs immediately.
I love sort of the way you phrase that, and like it doesn't hold back. And I think it's just how they play with restraint in both the writing, the character development, all of that, but also in more of like the production of the show. One of the things that was the most jarring to me in season 1 was the complete lack of music. In a normal TV show, you get a soundtrack of sorts. And in season 1, you get the opening scene, and then it's one of my favorite things in TV where like a character takes earbuds out and it stops. So you like, it becomes part of the show. Robbie takes his earbuds out and like the music stops playing and then it doesn't come back on until he's going home and like putting his earbuds back in. Like it's just another layer to how immersive this show is and how it really forces you into these characters' heads. And then I think going back to Lily's point a little bit with the final scene between Santos and Whittaker, in season 1, Whittaker is like pathetic. And I don't mean that in like a mean way, but he's just so sad and like
it's his first day.
It's his first day and he loses his first patient and like he's just so sad and you feel bad for him.
And he's getting vomited on,
He's
blood splattered on him.
He's just having a bad day.
Yeah.
But then in season 2, you get a much more confident version. And there is a scene where he's sort of talking to Ogilvy, which is one of the new interns. And it is, I think, one of the more overt moments in the show where it's like, this is Whittaker speaking to himself on day 1, you know? But there's another layer to it as the audience member, at least in my opinion, because Whittaker is saying to Ogilvy some of the same things that Robbie said to him on his first day to sort of get through the day. And so there's a little bit of a heartwarming aspect to that, but there's also like an undercurrent of like dread because we see what Robbie is struggling with, especially in season 2. And so you're watching Whittaker like rise up to the challenge now and feel more confident in the ER, but a part of you doesn't want that because it leads to burnout and you don't want him turning into what Robbie is becoming. And so there's constantly a scene on screen that is just the bare minimum of what they're giving you, but then the audience is having to work for it to get the deeper part of that.
It's really cool to me to see how they sort of build this sort of sub-theme of medical burnout and mental health, like for medical care workers. Because, I mean, the beginning of the show, like one of the first scenes is you're on a rooftop with the night shift attending, who is Dr. Abbott, and then Dr. Robbie going up there, and they like joke sort of about like, you jumping yet or whatever, like, and they're each kind of bringing each other back from the ledge, and you get back to the end of the season and you're on the rooftop watching, you know, fireworks, 4th of July, right? No, is that season 2?
That's season 2.
Okay. Then at end of season 2,
and
season 1 they're in the park drinking beers. But you get like this sort of like rooftop like idea of it. It all comes back to this fact of like, you can be up there for one reason, be up there for another, and you don't forget the fact like how exhausted these people are. And every time you're on that roof, you sort of feel this sort of empathy. And I keep saying empathy. You feel this sort of compassion for the medical care workers and these doctors that are clearly struggling and continue to show up and work every single day. Season 2, a lot of it is joking about like Robbie, like, you're not going to take the full sabbatical, like, ha ha ha, like you are a workaholic, you're never going to be able to do it. And he is, meanwhile, the whole time, like, maybe not planning on coming back at all. And not even in a sense of like quitting, in a sense of like not living. And it is just... it's just like undercurrent for the entire show. Even in season 1, in hindsight, thinking back on Robbie's like mental health, like the moments are there. They're just not necessarily something that the show wanted to focus on in season 1. I'm so excited to see what happens in season 3 because while each season does have like a finale and an end, it leaves so much room. We're like, okay, but what next? It's not like this full satisfying moment of closure. Like even ending on the roof with the fireworks isn't like this perfect closure. It's like this, and what's next sort of moment. Where do we go from here? I mean, Whittaker's still with that like farm girl. What's going to happen there?
Because also the fireworks on the roof was for the final scene for most of the cast, but the true final scene of season 2 is Robbie talking to Baby Jane Doe.
What's going to happen with Baby Jane Doe?
Is Robbie going to go on a sabbatical? Like we don't know by the end of season 2, and I love that part of it. The other part of that I love about it, especially with the rooftop scenes, and I think that this is one of the things that just stood out the most to me personally, is that there is a sense of heaviness. There is a sense of exhaustion. The show does a very good job of getting you to understand the nuances to all of these characters and how they can, love their jobs, want to be here, but still be up on the roof at the end of the day. And I think that those moments resonate with so many people that aren't even in the healthcare field, the medical field, because this sort of passive ideation, I think, is so common now with a feeling of burnout. There are so many people that, they're not planning on killing themselves, but they wouldn't mind if they were dead, And I think that really sums up what Robbie's going through at the end. And I think that is such a nuanced line to walk, and to be able to show it in such an effective way, I think is such a credit to the writers to be able to really get that feeling.
So we're talking about burnout here, and I think this is a good moment to bring up the cultural context of which the show exists, in that it is very explicitly a response to the COVID pandemic. It exists in a post-COVID world, and I mean, in real life, COVID was a breaking point for the medical profession. Like, we collectively, as a global culture, had a moment where we were like, our medical infrastructure cannot handle this level of sickness. And we see it in the show. We see Robbie's flashbacks to the COVID era and how he lost his mentor and it broke him. And it's just really incredible to see the portrayal of, in the show, what happens next for the medical profession. Like, we've effectively had a global moment where this profession just broke, and like, what happens to the profession itself? What happens to the people next? And you see the older characters like Robbie and Dr. Abbott, who are just dealing with demons every single day. And that doesn't change the fact that there are new people who still want to practice medicine, these new interns. And it's, how do you carry on the legacy of this profession, of helping people, of wanting to make a better world, when you were just at the abyss like 3 years ago? And I mean, the show doesn't answer that question, but it poses it in the most engaging manner I could possibly imagine.
I love that. I love this whole, like, where do we go from here? Not even just in COVID, but the premise of the show is sort of, where do we go from here? Where have we been and where are we going, even in like the characters' lives? What's going to happen with, Dr. McKay? What's going to happen with Dr. Robbie? I think that there is so much to even be said about what's going to happen with Dr. Mel King. I know that, she's just, right now, I know that we have not seen her actual character arc that has happened. They are setting us up for it, but that's one of the things of like, where are we going to keep going? What is going to happen with Dr. Langdon? Like, can this really stand? The fact that he did steal drugs, and yeah, maybe Dr. Robbie didn't actually go through like the reports of it and make it so that he got his medical license revoked, but he could have and should have. And if he does still get caught and found out, like, a medical board will come down on him and say, it doesn't matter if that was 5 years ago when you got clean, you did that, you're out of here. There is still so much to unpack in we're just left with wondering what happens next in a violent world where there's aggression against healthcare workers, and where there are mass shootings and hacking into medical facilities. Like, these are bigger things where it's like, this is kind of the world we're living in, with AI being implemented, especially in season 2 with Dr. Al-Hashimi. Like, it's all asking, where do we go from here? How do we exist in where we are at, and how do we move forward? It's amazing. Also, want to add, fully thought that this show was going to be 24 episodes. Didn't know much about the Pitt at all, just went into it. I thought every season was going to be 24 episodes because, well, duh, it's a full day. Why wouldn't it be? And we get introduced to Dr. Abbott. Hello. and
Hello.
was fully expecting us to get his shift, and we didn't. I mean, I thought that the MASH casualty event at the festival was so genius because it forced the day shift workers that we are attached to as viewers to stay longer during their shift while also introducing us to the new night crew. So I was like, perfect, this is the transition. These are the transitional episodes, so we don't feel so jarred when our favorite characters that we've been attached to already leave. We're going to feel already attached to the night shift and interested in what they're going to do next. No, the show does just end, and then we don't get to see Dr. Abbott be the main kind of character, which was fully expecting. Now, to ask 24 full episodes from these wonderful writers that are already doing so much, trying to make a show make sense where it's one episode per hour of a shift, is maybe asking a lot. But it was what my heart was expecting and wanting.
I think we should get a night shift spinoff that is just like a completely like fan service, different tone, like a comedy bit. Because Gabriel, I know you didn't see it because it's in season 2, but there's a bit where like the night shift crew comes in and Abbott's got them like huddled up, and they have like a war cry together. Like they have a little like team spirit huddle. The night shift is such a completely different vibe from the day shift. I would love, even if it's like a one-off, hour and a half spinoff, and it's not the full same structure. I think we deserve it. I also just want Sean Hannity on my screen more.
It's impressive how, at least for season 1, Sean Hannity's character, Dr. Abbott, exists for maybe 15 minutes total. And yet the thirsting happening on the Story Stack podcast is reaching Jacob Elordi levels right now.
This is actually my first ever real celebrity crush as like not as a child was Sebastian Stan when I watched the Captain America movies for the first time at 13. Mm-hmm. I watched full shows that he was in like 5 minutes of. That's how I feel about Sean Hannity. Like I'm genuinely working my way through his filmography now.
My introduction to the Pitt was not clips of Robbie and stuff. It was seeing edits of Sean Hannity on TikTok, specifically the moment where he's like shirtless and like he's stitching himself up and he's like
because he has a bullet wound and he's just all casual.
He was grazed by a bullet, mind you, and he's like all fine. And then there's another one of the student doctors, or like
she's resident.
Okay, there's another one of the doctors with him who is talking about the sort of meds that she needs to like get to this patient. She's like, well, what? Like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, Uber it to him? Like, I don't have the money for that. And he goes, I'll pay for it. What? That was the clips that I kept getting was like, I'll pay for it. And he's shirtless and fixing his bullet wound. That was my introduction to Pitt. Only to find out that he's not a main character. Yeah. He's not a main character. He's a supporting character. You mean you had this man on your show and you did not use him to the full extent that you could have?
Meta moment, also fourth wall break here. For the first season of The Pitt, he won an Emmy for supporting or guest. I think it was guest appearance. For season 2, there was a lot of talk about him winning it for the second time in a row because that's kind of a historic thing. He'd be one of the only people to do it. He is submitted to supporting in a different category now. And I just think it's cool to like not settle for something you'd probably get, even though it would come with a lot of acclaim, and to like keep pushing forward. Mm-hmm. I just like that.
Before we get out of here, I do want to talk about, because we are a writing and storytelling podcast, what we can take from the Pitt as story creators. I mean, so we've gone over it. So the Pitt has a unique structure, being each episode happens in real time. It also isn't character building so much as it is character revealing. And it does really make me reflect on like my own work and like how can I take these elements and also use them. And I gotta say, when I just think about it, I come up to a wall where I'm like, I don't know if I'm skilled enough as a writer. I don't know if I understand the basics enough to break them in the way that the Pitt does. I genuinely feel like from a storytelling writerly standpoint, that's kind of what you're looking at here is like advanced storytelling. This is people who know the basic tenets of storytelling so well that they're like, let's get weird with it.
I think one of the things we're told over and over again in our like college program is that you can only break the rules once you know them. But then once you know them, like, we are very encouraged to get experimental. And so I think for me, two of the things that from this show that I would love to even get close to achieving in my own writing, because again, like, this is a masterclass, I feel. With the character development, professors say over and over again that like each character should have their own things going on. They should be the hero of their own story. No character on your page should ever feel flat. And I think the Pitt does such a good job that even with the most minor of characters, even ones that get, 2 minutes of screen time, you can tell they have stuff going on. Like, there is even Louis, the alcoholic that is regularly in the Pitt.
Yeah.
Gabriel, spoilers a little bit.
I could see it coming. I knew it was coming.
Spoilers a little bit. He dies in season 2.
Yeah.
His liver finally gives out. But even with him, he's introduced as sort of I don't want to say a comedic beat in the first season, but he is sort of a lighter air to the show. And then in season 2, once he dies, Langdon is the one that really sort of leads the charge on making sure that he's taken care of, that he's not just gonna, I think Langdon even offers to have him like cremated and like have a burial. Because again, Langdon was stealing the drugs from Louis. And so now that Langdon's getting clean, like, he feels he owes something to Louis. And he finds a picture of a family in his pocket. And when all of the nurses and the doctors are like gathered to give him a moment of respect, Robbie's the one that explains, like, no, he was married for years and his wife was pregnant and she was in a car accident and he lost both. And that's sort of what set him down this path. Even a character as minor as Louis gets like a very complex and nuanced storyline. We just don't get to know about it until it's too late. And so I think that idea of even the smallest of characters, even ones that are just there for the intention of like making scenes a little lighter, should have a very complex storyline, because at the end of the day, they're human. I think that, and then also the idea of like come in late, get out early, the idea of like focusing on actions in the scenes. This show obviously does a fantastic job of that.
As a writer, I think that with the sort of idea that you need to make sure that your characters are complex, at least for me, of course, we've all heard that characters need to be, to develop. You need to have a character arc, especially for your main characters. There should be like full, like deliberate arcs. And as for like other side characters, you can kind of figure it out as you go a little bit more. With a show like this that forces the writers to only use kind of this reverse revealing method of character development, it's almost tool that I don't consciously think of existing. When I write, of course, I'm thinking, what scenarios can I put my characters in that force them to learn and grow and move forward so that by the time we get to the end, they are a different person because of the things that they've gone through. I forget that for the reader, you can also make characters develop by slowly revealing things about them, that it's not all about putting them in a certain scenario that forces them to move forward, but putting them in a scenario that allows the character to look back, and that is all that the Pitt does. And I think that it can make character development feel more natural, because it is almost unnatural if it's just like thing after thing after thing, like your character is just forced to move forward. That is kind of cheap writing, but realizing that you can have character development, and in those moments where you are not like forcing them to move forward because the plot demands it, you can reveal things by looking back in interactions with like other characters. And I think that is the thing that I will be taking away from this, is how can I reveal something in the past that allows the reader to feel like we're continually moving forward and understanding our protagonists and our supporting characters.
I really like that, just because I recently read a book. I know you were also reading the same book, and because I finished it, you did not finish it. I don't want to throw the author under the bus, but it was a book in which the love interest is a very flat character and kind of is just there to exist for our main character. And then once you get like almost to the end of the book, you start learning more about him. And I think that it was trying to do that same thing. But the problem is you forget that before we know those things, like, he still knows those things. And so I think Santos is a great example. When you meet her, she's a bitch and you don't like her. But she already knows everything that she's gone through. You as the audience gets to find out, and then that's what changes your perception. So I think just keeping in mind of like, you know your character's backstory and you know what you're doing with it, but so do they. And they have to act accordingly.
Okay, before we get out of here, everybody just list a top the Pitt moment for you. Mine is so you go through the entire first season, and every once in a while you get Robbie and Gloria, the hospital management, who are just at each other's necks. And then the mass casualty event happens, and they're like, there's no arguing. They're both on the exact same page. They're like, we'll get this done. And I was like, my heart fluttered. I was like, oh shit, this is real. Whew.
Well, I like that moment too, because it's like the whole show you just fucking hate Gloria because she's only ever there to be like, you need to increase patient satisfaction, and patients are literally punching people. And it's like, no, Gloria, go back upstairs, leave us alone. But then in that moment, like, you remember she's just a person. And like, her job, unfortunately, is to focus on those things that nobody else wants to focus on. And so she gets a bad rap. I think that's a really good moment. My honest answer is the I'll pay for it. Okay, so yeah, my real favorite scene is the I'll pay for it. But since we've already talked about it, the scene in season 2 where Abbott and Robbie are talking in one of the trauma rooms, and Robbie says, you know how they say, like, you lose a part of your soul when someone you love passes? I'm not convinced that you don't lose a part of your soul when you see another human pass. I think that moment is one of the most, like, grounding moments, because it's one of the only real moments that they get to pause and reflect. And I think that's why it's so impactful in that moment.
That's a good moment too. My favorite, beyond like, I really do enjoy the scene between Whitaker and Santos at the very end of season 1, and this sort of like moment between them as friends. I really love Whitaker and Robbie's sort of moment when Robbie is breaking down during the mass casualty event, and it is Whitaker who shows up and sees this sort of broken man who is supposed to be the one running this whole show, is supposed to be helping save lives, and has always seemed so put together and strong and capable. Seeing him like on the floor in the midst of a mental breakdown, that is such a cool and like scene that like sticks with me afterwards. And it humanizes Robbie even more, because you are realizing that this is a person, despite all his knowledge and power in the hospital, like he can still hit a breaking point. But you are seeing this weak character who for the entire season is this sort of nothing, like he's just kind of pathetic, like we said before.
A real Wilbur type.
Yes.
He's also from a farm.
Yeah, you see this Wilbur of a character, and you get to kind of realize maybe why he's important to the show, and his sort of ability to recognize someone in need of help and give them the sort of courage that they need to get up, even if it is, you know, the attending of the emergency department. And you continue to see him grow in that way in season 2, but like that's almost like the first moment of recognizing that Whitaker also has this sort of power within himself.
I think it's a really impactful moment, and I'm sorry that I laughed. I wasn't laughing at your moment. I was just laughing because you brought Huckle Robbie into this, and I don't even think that you know what that is.
I don't want to know what that is. I don't want to know what that is.
One of the most popular ships online is Robbie and Whitaker.
What? Okay, sorry, but Dr. Collins leaving upset me because I wanted that to happen. Robbie and Dr. Collins. Not to say she might not, you know, come back, but.
Do you guys want a list of the most popular ships?
Regrettably,
there's some crazy ones. Okay, so Mel and Langdon.
Okay.
I personally see this one very much. I think that they have work to do to like get it there, but I see the potential for it.
Yeah, I can see the setup, groundwork for it.
Am I crazy that I don't feel like they interact enough for there to be like...
They're like best friends. What are you talking about?
Mel and Langdon?
I think that
I guess
right
it's
now...
more in season 2, maybe.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'm not there yet.
And I think right now Mel cares more about Langdon. In season 1, Mel definitely cares more about Langdon than Langdon cares about Mel. Season 2, we start to see Langdon caring more about anyone, because you realize that in season 1 he was struggling and addicted to drugs. In season 2 he's finally getting clean, so we're able to see him go, like, he's able to face his demons and apologize to people. I can see the groundwork for it, so
More
I agree.
ships.
I
More
agree.
ships.
Huckle Robbie, just Whitaker and Robbie.
Oh,
There's
okay.
also
Crazy.
There's also an
Insane.
offset of this that includes Abbott, which is Huckle Rabbit, is what it's called.
Now we're going too far.
A little too far. Mohan and Abbott, I think solely because of the I'll pay for it scene.
Yeah.
Collins and Robbie, obviously, but that kind of ends with season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Abbott and Robbie is a pretty big one. And then Santos and Garcia, but they're in the show, so that's kind of a that's an established one.
Yeah, they are an established relationship.
I think
which you wouldn't
realistically-
know from season 1.
I
You
didn't know
you
that,
would have
but-
seen the groundwork for it
Okay.
in season.
I can
Yeah.
see
You
it.
do because there's a comment in season 1 about Garcia liking Santos. I think not in like a necessarily romantic way. That
But like
you
there's a
would-
favoritism.
Yeah,
there.
there's a favoritism there that you realize that there's something more going on between the two characters than just liking them in a professional setting. But yeah, and by season 2, you get a little more of an understanding of their relationship.
The other one that I'm aware of is Giavotti and McKay.
Okay.
I think solely based on their like triage scenes in season 1, really.
The shippers have gone too far with that one. There was not a romantic subtext to that scene. There was you're reading too far into it.
Let the
I-
fans do what they want.
Let the fans
Yeah, for
do
real.
what they
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
I think another thing about the Langdon and Dr. King ship is that Dr. King needs to realize some stuff about herself before she can get into a romantic relationship, I'd say, with anyone. She has more character development to do. We've now gotten Langdon's sort of character development arc, but Dr. King, we have not dug into her complexity enough for her to have a full, romance arc, unless the romance arc is in favor of revealing things about her.
The only reason I wanted to make sure that I included that is because the cast is fully aware of all of these and like regularly make jokes about it. Noah Wiley talks very regularly about the Huckle Robbie like fan art that he sees, and he's like in interviews with Catherine Lanassa, which is Dana, and is like showing her fan art during interviews, and it's like explicit X-rated fan art of him and Whitaker. So I just think it's very funny. Apparently he sends them to Whitaker. It's very funny to me. I love when a cast is like equally as online.
There's a good and a badness to it because the fan culture surrounding the Pitt is large. It's massive and vocal. And the actress that plays Dr. Santos is also on Broadway. She's doing a musical, and there are people at this Broadway show that when she comes on stage and she goes to like sing her song in the musical are yelling, "Finish your charts," because that's like a big thing in season 2. Like, why aren't you doing your charts? Whatever. And she had to come out and comment, like, that's not okay. You cannot be yelling things out at a Broadway performance, but you are being so disrespectful to the cast and crew of the musical to be saying that to her and yelling that at her is just so beyond inappropriate. And she had to come out and comment on that. So there is a level of fan culture where it's like, we shouldn't be engaging with these actors and actresses in that sort of way.
I agree. One final note, just because I think it's also kind of funny. Mel, the actress that plays for Taylor Durden, that is Bryan Cranston's daughter in real life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I
That's
never
neat.
watched Breaking Bad, but I can kind of see it when I think about it. I really do see the familial resemblance.
Well, yeah, if you guys have no more thoughts, my thoughts are just that I cannot wait for season 3. Supposedly this one's set like right before Thanksgiving, like right before the holiday season.
Ooh.
So I am like mentally preparing myself now to see like burned patients from trying to deep fry a whole
Deep-fried
turkey.
turkey. Okay, I've yet to watch season 2, but as far as I can see it, the only way that you could end a series like this is to do COVID 2, right?
You mean the hantavirus?
Yeah, but we're not ready to end the series yet. So we just gotta like give it like, a few more seasons, and then we can have our next global pandemic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that'll naturally wrap up the show.
Beautiful.